Hello Internet, and welcome to my live reaction for IDW Sonic the Hedgehog issue 48. When we last left our heroes, the fire was still breaking out throughout the campground. Tangle and Belle and Ash and the Motobug had fallen into the river. And it ended up being much less dangerous than it initially seemed, even when they fell off a waterfall. It was only a 10-foot plunge. They were fine, and they landed back in the river and sort of rendezvoused up with Amy and Jewel, where they were sort of faced with a bit of a choice to either get everyone else out and leave the fire be, or, risk their lives for one last-ditch effort to stop the fire, and they choose the latter. With some quick thinking, using a short-lived dam, to flood the ground of the campsite, to stop the fire from spreading. They're able to basically put a stop to the fire and then finish evacuating everyone. Meanwhile, or afterwards, back at Tails' house, Tails gets Belle a new arm, and the two of them discuss the sort of implications of our friendly little Motobug friend. Meanwhile, Tangle had said earlier to Jewel that she was going to leave the Restoration, but then she kind of ends up walking that back. She says she is still going to leave to go travel with Whisper, but she mentions having something new worked out with Jewel, so we don't quite know a lot about that. Meanwhile, the park ranger realizes that the fire was intentionally started, which we already knew from Imposter Syndrome, and we cut to the Chaotix reading a newspaper that I think is about the sort of antics that the imposters got up to in, I think, Central City in part 1 of Imposter Syndrome. So yeah, with all that being said, let's dive right on into issue 48. We got this real cool kind of old school movie poster vibe with the Chaotix. Chaotix Confidential presents Villains with Filthy Faces, Sensational Drama and Suspense. And we see the shadow of the word whodunit on the pavement. Vector and his sonic magnifying glass. We see Rough and Tumble in the background. I'm guessing they're going to be pretty relevant to this issue. But yeah, we have our story so far, which is basically the fire breaking out. Surge and that's my medicine alarm. Surge and Kit's involvement. Ash seeing Surge and Kit. The park ranger seeing Surge and Kit's footprints, the mayhem they got up to back in issue 1 of Imposter Syndrome, and finally the Chaotix reading that newspaper. Our roll call here is for Vector, Espio, Charmy, of course, and Night and Dawn, who you might recognize as the radio host from the second annual way back in 2020, the one that was all stories of the Metal Virus saga. But yeah, that's nice that we're going to be checking in on them again for the first time in the main series. And we open at the radio station. Well, folks, the rooster's crowing, and you know what that means. I'll be back tomorrow with more advice and tunes to get you through the night. And we see the Chaotix in their, Vector-themed car driving towards the radio station. And remember, you're listening to... and someone chimes in, oh, Charmy's not in the car. I'm guessing that's Charmy. Oh, can I say it? I want to say it. It's 199.2 KTBR. And Dawn's outside as Vector and Espio approach. I love Vector and Espio sort of look at each other of can you believe the kid, as they're driving up. About time you two got here. Come on in and collect a little terror. And Charmy, as we see, has stolen the microphone from Night. Don't do anything dumb during the day, because Night can't help you. I'm very curious what exactly Charmy's doing here, but the Chaotix are just always a delight, and we stand. Bye! Oop! And Night, disconnects the radio while Charmy is still talking. And then Night sees the Vector and Espio have entered. Vector, Espio, there's my favorite detective team, here to pick up radio's latest star. And Charmy comes in. Did you hear me? I help pick the songs and fix people's problems. Night tells them he's a natural. I want to come back every night, and he just falls asleep. Vector cradles him. The Chaotix are so cute. I love them so much. And And Dawn enters the room behind them. What was it this time? A rampaging monster? Deadly assassins? And SBO tells Dawn, returning library books. Charmy's banned for life, but if we told him, he'd be heartbroken. Okay, I guess it's like Charmy is so loud, the library kicked him out. And then Knight turns to SBO. And I love, all through this conversation, SBO still just has his, like, surrogate son or whatever wrapped in his arms. As Knight tells Vector, hey, I got quite a few calls during the show from Central City that you three might want to look into. I think there's a case in it for you. Interested? And Vector takes the sheet. A case? We're always interested. And in the car, we see them, like, stuck in, like, bumper-to-bumper traffic. As SBO reads, power outages, traffic problems. It sounds like these people are dealing with a bad thunderstorm, not crime. But couldn't, like we know from having seen Imposter Syndrome that, like, it was a clear day. Couldn't people have told Knight that when they called in? I don't know. Anyway, Vector tells SBO, Knight's got a good nose for these things. Has he ever led us wrong before? And SBO just comments, he certainly led us into trouble before. Trouble doesn't tend to get us paid. If we figure out what's up, I'm sure somebody will pony up a reward. I will say, I lightly commented around this subject back at the end of the Metal Virus saga, when I talked about, like, you know, I wish the IDW verse had a kind of Sonic Universe style thing, where we could just, like, check in on all the side characters that don't always get treatment. But also, I explicitly wish we had a Chaotix spinoff. I just love their dynamic so much. They're fun. They're very good, and I love them. Anyway, Charmy in his adorable little bee-themed booster seat. I love these guys so much. He, like, rubs his eyes. Are we there yet? And Vector just, like, angrily swerves into the grass around the road. Ugh. I am not missing out on another case because of traffic. Referring back to Zeddy Hunt, which I had forgotten about that until I saw that little editor note. Where they also sort of were unable to join the fight against the Zeddy because, I guess, traffic. Come on, Charmy. Fly us out of here, and I'll get you some ice cream later. Yay! I want sprinkles. Oh, he's not driving through the grass. He's parking the car, and they're in their, like, Sonic Heroes flight team pose. I love them so much. As one driver stuck in traffic yells at them, hey, that's cheating! And Vector calls back, y'all are just jealous you didn't think of it first. But as they arrive, we see this actually might be the same day as Sergeant Kit's attack, or stealth attack, whatever you would want to call that. It's because the traffic problems are still happening. And Vector looks, all three of them look around as Vector says, man, it didn't look this rough on the news. Where do we even start? We see two drivers in, like, a fit of road rage, or, like, they've got into a wreck and they're yelling at each other. You're the one slamming on the brakes in the middle of the intersection, not me. It wouldn't have been a problem if you weren't driving like a maniac. And Espio sort of, like, nudges Vector to get his attention. Vector approaches them. Excuse me, I'm in the Chaotix Detective Agency. Do either of you have any idea what happened here? And then I think he's supposed to be a frog. There's a frog and maybe a fox who are fighting each other. And the frog tells Vector, there was a big electrical surge and the whole city went haywire. Lights flicking on and off, traffic signals changing at random, the works. And everyone's suddenly forgotten how to drive. And the fox is angry at the sort of implication there and tells him, watch it, pal. And just then, like, the whole city sort of surrounds Chaotix here. Hey, are you guys here to help out? I heard that even the restoration's responders are stuck. My nan's waiting across town. And Charmy starts to, like, feel how bad this is. Jeez, everybody here is really angry. And Espio tells them, we're getting nowhere with this. And Vector thinks, nobody seems to have any idea what or who caused it. But then this old, is he a skunk maybe? Kind of guy barges in. I know who done did it. I saw him coming out of the sewer. It was a Central City mutant monster crocodile. Had to be. So he definitely saw Surgeon Kit. I'm not quite sure how he interpreted Surgeon Kit to be a mutant monster crocodile. And also I'm curious, you know, how that might affect people's impressions of Vector, who is also a crocodile, unless they take this guy to be some like kook or something. But Charmy's like so excited at this, ooh! And Vector and Espio are far more skeptical. As Vector goes on, I don't know about that, but... And the skunk we see like literally grabbing onto the edges of the panel. Watch out! They'll eat your little bee friend! And Vector just ignores him. We might be able to see more from under the street. And so they climb down into the sewers. Espio first. Vector calls down, how's it looking? And Vector looks around. Promising. And we see these like slashed up wires, like cables. Presumably like the city's power structure. I don't really know how city planning works because I don't know. Anyway, and Vector is sort of acknowledging that. Dang, whoever did this is a tough customer. I'm almost glad they're long gone. And Espio teases, but there's a crocodile right here. Oh, hush up. And then they hear this splash sound as Espio's like ready to strike, and Vector questions, what was that? Oh, the cover. I called it out earlier, and I still didn't see it till it was right in front of my face. I was too busy on the imposter syndrome imposter syndrome connections to note what Charmy says here. Hey, look, there's somebody there, and we see a skunk. It's the one with the tail. I forget who had the tail and who didn't. But we see him carrying this crate. And Vector is just on the attack. Get him, Chaotix! Charmy! And Charmy just goes, here I come! And he gets into Vector's hand, and Vector just yeets him. As Espio throws his shirt again. Stinger attack! And whichever one that is, it seems to be, we get a bit of a color shot here. It's the blue skunk. I'm gonna see if I can find out which one was which. I think it's Rough. Yes, it is Rough, according to the wiki. So it's Rough who run into the corridor, as barely dodging Charmy, but dropping the crate. Oop! And Espio just looks around, where? But Charmy calls to them, this way, follow me! Shouldn't they check on that drop crate, though? That crate seems kind of important. Anyway, Vector, they're running down the hallway, and Vector complains, can't see a thing down this way. No good. We can't chase a guy we can't see. And Espio tells them, I much prefer when the shadows are on our side. And we see this, like, green cloud of, like, stench below them that Charmy notes, ew, what's that smell? And Espio agrees, something down here reeks. I say we make a tactical retreat. And they run away. It's clearly, a skunk stench. But Vector agrees, you can say that again. Phew! We see Rough just kind of laughing at them. I'm not quite sure how Rough ties into the imposter syndrome plot, but we'll see how all this goes. And Vector just walks out disappointed. Man, this stinks. But Espio tells him it's a lot better out here, though. I mean figuratively. And then Charmy finally notes the dropped box. Hey, I think he dropped that when he ran. And Vector notes it. That's something. And they open up the box. Charmy is freaking out. Is it a clue? Did I spot a clue? And Espio picks up the box, revealing that it's full of scrap metal. Who would want this? And Vector sees this splinter that has the label Central Shipping Yard on it. I do not know, but... And he sort of rubs his hands together. I know where they came from. And then we cut to the shipping yard, and it's empty. Charmy looks around. At this point, it seems to be either sunrise or sunset. I'm guessing sunset, given that it was daylight earlier in the story. Where is everybody? But Vector tells him, I guess there's not much point working in the shipping district when all the roads are plugged up. But you'd think that people would have been at the shipping district when the roads got plugged up. So I figured they would just be kind of stuck there for a while. Anyway, Vector looks around. Better spread out and start looking for whatever it is we're looking for. And Charmy just tells Vector, I'm going with Espio. You're still stinky from the sewer. And Vector snaps, I am not. And Espio shushes them. Wait, did the smell follow us? Or are we on its trail? And Vector thinks for a moment and sniffs the air. You're right. We must be on the right track. So yeah, they not quite accidentally, but they did find themselves right back in pursuit of Rough and Tumble for whatever the hell Rough and Tumble are doing here. Again, I feel like all of the press for this whole stretch of the series has emphasized that this is the build-up to issue 50, right? But now we've got... and so like it would make sense that this is tying in with Imposter Syndrome, which is also part of that build-up to 50. But this seems to be a Rough and Tumble story and not a Surge and Kit story? I don't know. We'll see as this issue goes on. Anyway, they reach the end, as Vector notes, end of the line, and they see this boarded up little shack. This place has sure seen better days. And Charmy just says, looks abandoned. Hey, anybody home? And Vector shuts him up. Shh, maybe that's just what they want us to think. And SBO listens from outside. I hear voices. Let me handle this. And he goes right into his invisible mode. And Charmy shoots him a thumbs up as Vector says, if there's trouble, just holler and we'll back you up. And SBO crawls up the roof and finds an open sun window. And he jumps inside, hears someone say, I swear I was minding my own business, doing like you said, when bam, they were right on top of me. Don't worry though, I gave him the slip. This is definitely Rough. Gave him a whiff of the old stink bomber, turned him right around. And whoever he's talking to, who is definitely not Tumble, maybe Starline is still working with them? I'm trying to remember exactly how Bad Guys left off here. Because I felt like Bad Guys ended with, Starline being on the outs with, all the other villains. But someone questions, were you able to deliver the crate? No. Must have dropped in all the excitement. And is that... That's not the guy from Chow Races and Badnik Bases, is it? I'm trying to remember what his name was. Let me see. Because I know he had a name. It was the whole thing back in that arc. Let me see. Clutch. It was Clutch. Is that Clutch? It might be. Anyway. Tumble tells who I think is Clutch. Guess we can't get out of the city that way again. And Clutch tells him, our one route for moving cargo, gone. Because you were spotted in the sewer. Wait, maybe this whole bit is completely, irrelevant? This is not really tied to the actual drama at all, to, the power outages. It's a completely coincidental thing, maybe? Anyway, Tumble tells him, hey, all of this sneaking around isn't easy. And Rough chimes in, yeah, how was I supposed to know the Chaotix would be down there? They're not pushovers. Clutch tells them, I've heard of them. I brought you two on because I need help I can rely on. Help I can trust. Given these two's penchant for clownery, that might not have been your best move, but okay. This is everything I could salvage from my home before my property was confiscated. The last of my wealth, my hope. Stuck here with no way to get it out of the city to my buyers because the whole city's been turned upside down. Yeah, this is definitely Clutch. In the aftermath of everything that happened during CRABB, Clutch turns back on his lackeys, all because you got spooked by some third-rate gumshoes who weren't even looking for you. And we see SBO watching all this, leaning over the railing. So, do I need to show you what happens to those who disappoint me? And it seems like SBO leans on that railing a little bit too hard, and there's a creaking noise that Clutch notes, and he points right out to where SBO is with his gun cane, and shoots and barely misses. But the dust from above SBO rains down on him, revealing himself. And Clutch tells them, you two are in luck. Looks like you have a chance to redeem yourselves. And Rough and Tumblebee's here just ready to go. They're fucking here for it. And SBO dodges the next of Clutch's shots while whistling for the rest of the team. And just then, Vector just yells so loud he knocks the doors off their hinges. And Clutch tells his lackeys, that's your cue, boys. And Tumble starts their next little chant. You tracked us down. And Ruff goes on, might think we're humbled. And they say together, but you've never tangled with Ruff and Tumble. And Vector's just like here for this fight. So that's how you play it. Okay, then I'll say it. Your judgment's slipping, thinking to try the croc. Gonna be tripping, better watch the walk. And he matches their rhyme with his own and like uses his tail to knock Ruff off his feet. Chameleon's the other one to fear. Never know when he'll appear. But it's you I want to hear. And Tumble's ready for an attack of his own. And Charmy goes over or Vector turns to Charmy. Stinger's coming on the next pass. Beehive's ready. Go kick. And I think he realizes he's right about to curse. And stops. Actually, hold on. Are these the exact lyrics to the Chaotix theme song? Because I remember the Chaotix theme song was a similar bit, where like the gong sound drowns up where the rhyme scheme would have had kick your ass. I'm gonna quickly Google the Chaotix theme song to see if this is like the actual. I don't think like, the rest of it doesn't sound like the actual lyrics. No, it's not the actual lyrics, but it's the same sort of gag at the end, the go kick, and he cuts off. I think as he realizes Charmy's in the room and he can't curse in front of the kid, and Charmy's just so excited. That's me. I'm the bee, right? And as the fight's going on, Tumble gets a good hit on Vector, slamming him into the ground, but Ruff can't really reach Charmy. And while Clutch tries to sneak away, SBO catches up with him. Kunai to the neck. So if you didn't cause the trouble downtown, who did? And Tumble is just like, he's more upset about Vector trying to like steal their thing than anything else. Only we get to rhyme, and your meter is trash. Then Clutch calls in, that'll do, boys. And then SBO, I assume that's Clutch. It's kind of somewhat hard to tell. It could be Clutch talking to Ruff and Tumble. It could be SBO talking to Vector and Charmy. It is SBO's next line. Charmy, Vector, these three had nothing to do with the power failures. They're not our targets. But Vector is still sort of, we see Ruff and Tumble are sort of like upset that like the fight's been sort of called off, which makes me think that's Clutch's line up above. But Vector goes on, they're definitely not innocent though. Who are you anyway, Gramps? And is Clutch supposed to be old also? I didn't think he was that old, just like kind of dramatic. But Clutch goes on, once upon a time, my reputation would have preceded me. You know, I was perfectly content to enjoy my retirement in White Park with my chow. Okay, so that was actually supposed to be a retirement, what he was doing back in White Park. That is, until some wild pack of do-gooders trashed my home. Now I see that it was a blessing in disguise. A wake-up call, even. There's a whole new generation of heroes out there. That's an interesting line. It's almost certainly unimportant. I'm almost certainly thinking way too much into this. But, like, that implies that there are still these sort of Sonic-esque acts of heroism pre-Sonic, and therefore pre-Eggman, right? I'm not entirely sure how IDW canon deals with Eggman's, like, or even Games canon deals with Eggman's initial arrival. Like, was he... I know, like, old Archie lore, he was sort of like a... Wasn't he sort of like a new threat that Sonic had to, like... That, like, Sonic and the Freedom Fighters had to rise to the occasion. They weren't, like, inheriting a fight. They were starting a fight, or starting a resistance movement, or however the hell you want to frame it. I'm curious... Like when Clutch talks about this whole new generation of heroes, were they also still fighting Eggman? Or were they perhaps fighting some other threat? If so, who? Clutch, seemingly, but who else? What was the world like pre-Sonic? I've never really had that question before, but now I'm kind of wondering. Anyway, whole new generation of heroes out there. Heroes I never tricked, swindled, or beaten. and as long as I'm alive, that simply won't stand. It's high time I rebuilt my empire. It may be a humble start, but it's reliable. There's always someone out there looking for weapons. I'm not sure telling this to the private eyes is really your best move here, Clutch. And Vector's just heard enough. Espio, stand back! And he gets his fists and slams them into the ground, causing all of those crates of weapons to fall into the sea below them. As Vector tells Clutch, looks like all your stuff's gone. Too bad. And we see Charmy in this little, little thing. As Clutch just sort of growls at them. And Espio, still with his, knife at Clutch's back. The Chaotix are always on, another level from, the rest of the Sonicverse. From, Clutch shooting at Espio earlier, it's sort of drawn like a laser beam. But it's a gun. It's distinctly a gun. To Espio earlier with the knife to Clutch's throat and now at his back, and Vector having to hastily not let himself curse in front of Charmy. There's very much a certain it's not quite PG-13, metaphorically speaking, but it's definitely a little darker, a little more mature than what we see from the rest of the Sonicverse. As Espio tells Clutch, move. We're not letting you go. And Clutch comments, of course. There's just one thing. And he pulls up what look like smoke bombs. Might these be yours, son? And Espio's just shocked. How did you get? And Clutch throws them down, grabs his lackeys, and beats a hasty retreat. Gak! Yipe! And Clutch gives them one final message. Spread the word, Chaotix. Clutch the possum is back. And with that, he disappears. I'm sure we'll see Clutch again. Once again, IDW is sort of building up its roster of recurring villains. And Espio just sort of apologizes. I'm sorry. I failed. And Vector tells him, nah, it's all good. We didn't know what we were getting into. And Charmy just thinks, so who did mess up the city? I don't know, Charmy. The trail's gone cold. I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens next. And we see what looks like 3 fires breaking out in the city. Which I don't think is what is part of imposter syndrome, as I recall. But, the traffic, that might just be the after effects of traffic. So the present most important thing here is that, we see the entire city's traffic is just backed up. No one's moving. Next time, calling all badniks. And our, next month, it's actually 2 months from now. I think Imposter Syndrome 3 is 2 weeks from now. And then 49 is, I believe, this time in April. But we see, a whole bunch of egg drones. Not classic badniks, but, 3D style Eggman robots. Heading towards this one, central Eggman tower. I have read the solicit for next month's issue that vaguely involve. I remember it vaguely mentions looking at the friendly Motobug's code to spread that to all badniks, which could be what this is referring to. What could be what calling all badniks is referring to. Anyway, let's talk about this issue. This issue was so much fun. I love the Chaotix. They're a total hoot. They're just a good family, and I love them. Vector, the chapter really peaked, I'd say, with Charmy falling asleep, falling into Vector's arms is so sweet. It's so cute. And, Charmy having his own little high seat in the Vector-mobile. Good shit. Just quality shit. Quality shit. I love the heroes callback with Charmy flying them over the cars. I just think that the whole Chaotix vibe is real fun. It's constantly just there's just so many little bits in this issue that are such a blast. I love the Chaotix with every part of my being. They're just the boys. They're just the boys. I love them so much. And then for more there's also a good bit of sort of forward looking material with the Clutch stuff. as like Clutch has sort of shown himself to not be a one-off villain as he sort of appeared to be back in CRABB, but will be a more recurring foe. I doubt we're going to see him until at least like post. I mean, saying post 50 doesn't mean much, and that's 2 issues from now. But I imagine it'll be a while before like Clutch becomes an immediate threat again. But he is around, and that will definitely be important later. But yeah, the fight in the warehouse is fun. But really, this is all just it feels like this issue didn't do a lot for like this whole segment's stated goal of building up 50, as like nothing we really saw here kind of influenced, or sort of nothing we saw here expanded on anything we saw in Imposter Syndrome already. But it's ridiculously fun. I love the Chaotix. They deserve the world. We should have a whole Chaotix spin-off series, is my hot take. It's just good. It's so good, and I love them. And I'm excited to see where we're going from here. And how exactly the whole Friendly Motobug ordeal is going to tie into Surgeon Kit. I don't know. All that remains to be seen going forward. But for now, I think I'm going to leave this video off here. Hope you all enjoyed the chapter and the video itself. If you did, feel free to drop me a like or subscribe, or, do whatever makes you happy, And as always, your life is your own, okay? Bye!